Yo, what is going on YouTube? It's your boy John, aka Spears here. In today's YouTube video, I'm going to be going over my NVIDIA filter settings and my graphic settings for Warzone. This has been one of the most requested videos, especially people just tuning into the stream that are new. They ask me, hey, what filters do you have on? Your game looks really clear, or, you know, it doesn't look like it has the blue tint nearly as much, or at least in my opinion, I think it's kind of toned down a lot. If you guys are at all interested in just seeing the settings themselves without my explanation, or want to see any of my loadouts or anything like that, if you guys go to spiros.live, that website is my website. It has all of my settings, all my graphic settings, sensitivity, audio, has all my class setups, all my recommendations in terms of weapons and attachments. So if you guys are at all interested, head over to that site. Anyway, though, guys, without further ado, let's get into the filters. All right, so if you guys are playing on PC with an NVIDIA graphics card, I believe this does work with AMD as well. Your settings are just slightly different. If you guys go ahead and look at the screen right now, as you guys can see, it's kind of washed out. It's not super vibrant, has this weird blue tint to it, and you can't really see all that far when you're like looking, aiming down sights. It seems a little bit blurry. It's kind of hard to spot enemies at a distance. Well, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to take it from this and make it look like this. As you guys can see already, night and day difference as to how much more clear it is. It's so much easier to spot enemies at a distance. The game overall just looks better. I think it looks a lot happier. You know, it kind of gives me some Blackout vibes, if I'm being completely honest. I prefer my game being really bright and really vibrant. I know some people say that they're not huge fans because they want it to, you know, takes away from the realism or it looks cartoony. Honestly, I mean, rock it with how you want to play with it. But to me, I'm telling you guys, this is the way I like to play. I just think it just looks better. The game is more, you know, appealing to the eye. Again, that's just my opinion. Anyway, though, if you guys want to go ahead and get these settings, if you guys are playing on PC, you guys have an NVIDIA graphics card, make sure that your drivers are up to date. If your drivers are not up to date, you will get a notification on your screen when you do Alt-Z, which brings this up. But if you don't have your drivers up to date, it'll say, make sure the game is supported, yada, yada, yada. So make sure that your drivers are up to date. If you need to update them, go to the GeForce Experience. Super, super easy. Anyway, so when you guys click Alt-Z, it'll bring this up, and then you guys can go into the game filter. I'm going to go ahead and just add the filter here, and I'm going to do the split screen filter. So on the right, obviously, you can see that's with my filters, and then the left is without. And you guys can just see already. I mean, it's just a night and day difference, how much better the map is in terms of clarity over distance. It doesn't look foggy, it doesn't look hazy. It's just, I don't know. Overall, man, you can just see so much more. All right, so the first filter that you guys are going to want to go ahead and add, I'm going to go ahead and move my character around really quick so I don't get kicked for inactivity. But anyway, you see how blurry it is. And I mean, you can even take a look real quick. I mean, just at that window, I mean, you really can't see into the house at all. It's really dark, kind of mysterious in a way. But anyway, in order to get the game looking better, like I said, Alt-Z game filters. When you guys get here, the first filter we're going to go ahead and add is the details filter. As you guys can already see, like off the bat, the game already looks better. This is just going to bring some sharpness to the game. You're going to want to have your sharpen up at around 61%. Your clarity at around 55 is what I like it at. And then the HDR toning, I go ahead and put that at 0 because I just don't want it active. We're going to go ahead and mess with the HDR and the colors and stuff later. Again, I mean, just try to get it as close to 0 as possible. As you guys can see, it's kind of a pain in the butt to get it. You know, just get it as close to 0 as you can. Obviously, play around with this. And then for the bloom, I'm going to go ahead and put that to 0 as well. So it did get a little bit darker, a little bit more washed out, but that's because we're going to mess with the color here in a second. The next filter that you guys are going to want to add is going to be the brightness and contrast filter. Again, as you guys can see, already a major upgrade. We're going to go ahead and turn the contrast down to 0. Again, it's going to look slightly washed out, but I promise you guys, this is definitely the way that you guys are going to want it. Your highlights, you're going to want that around 5%. Again, can't get it to 5%. Get as close as you possibly can. Shadows. Now, this is the big one. Like, I mean, you can see already, it's night and day difference how much more you can see into that house. But when you guys go ahead and do this and you take your shadows down to 80%, and I got kicked for inactivity. Okay, we're going to load back into another game. All right, we just got back into another game. Obviously, I got kicked. So going back into the settings, the shadows, you're going to want those around -70%. If you guys turn them up a little bit higher, obviously, like you see on the screen, it does get brighter, but it almost washes the game out a little bit. And then the closer to 0 that you get, the darker it is. So this will definitely help you spot people in darker spaces, especially that rose skin. It's almost impossible to see. And then for vibrance and to kind of make the game, like I said, more appealing and just overall just better, and I honestly think happier. I know it sounds kind of funny. You're going to want to go ahead and add a color filter. The color filter, as you guys can see, is going to intensify the blue tint at the very start. As you guys can see, I mean, going and looking around, it looks pretty gnarly. You're going to want to go ahead and open this up, change the tint color to 0%, change the tint intensity to 0%, leave the temperature at 0, and then the vibrance is essentially just like the saturation of the game. You can go ahead and turn this up to as high or as low as you want. Some people like it higher than others. I like mine right around 70 or 80. Again, this is just what I think looks best in the game. I think it makes the camos pop look phenomenal. It makes the blues a little bit more blue, the reds a little bit more red, and overall I just think it makes the game a lot clearer, a lot easier to see. Like, I mean, you can definitely see people in these dark areas, and it's just, the game just looks happier, and that's just my opinion. Anyway, though, I'm going to go ahead and get into my graphics settings now, and I'll go over my PC specs and everything like that, because I've been getting a ton of questions about this as well, and pretty much ways to get more FPS and all that kind of stuff. All right, so as you guys can see, I am getting around 115, 120 frames. I am using a dedicated gaming PC, but I am gaming at 1440p at pretty high settings. The specs of my computer, I have a 2080 Ti, an i9-9900K, and 32 gigs of RAM. I do have my GPU overclocked and my CPU overclocked, so I'm getting a slightly better performance. Again, this is rendering in a lot, being out in the hills. If I get, closer to something, or, there's less stuff on the screen, usually when I get in buildings, it's anywhere from 140 to 160 frames. I would like to say that the NVIDIA filters that I just showed you guys, you will take around a 10 to 15 frame hit, which honestly is kind of frustrating. But if you guys don't want to sacrifice that performance, you can actually add these filters inside of the NVIDIA control panel, and you guys won't take any penalties on frame rate. I personally think that the 10 to 15 frames is worth it, and I like to be able to fine tune it in game a lot faster. So that's just me. But anyway, getting into my graphics settings, like I said, all of this can be found on Spiro.live as well. But getting into my graphics settings, I am playing on 120 field of view. This is something that people are asking me constantly. So getting into my graphics settings, you guys are going to want to go ahead and be on full screen. If you guys ever get capped on frame rate, make sure that you're not in full screen borderless for some reason. It boots the game into that for some odd reason. So make sure you guys are in full screen at all times. The screen refresh rate, I have it at 240. The render resolution, obviously at 100 at 2560 by 1440, because I'm playing at that resolution. If your monitor is a 1080 monitor, then it should say 1920 by 1080. I am playing on a Alienware 27-inch 1440p monitor, 240 hertz. So I didn't need that many hertz, but I just wanted to kind of future-proof my setup on my monitor. The aspect ratio, I have this on automatic. The VSync, I have this disabled just because I don't want my frame rate limited at all. Custom frame rates in the menus, I have it set to 67 just because I don't need my frames to be, that crazy. I just kind of, rather throttle my computer in the menus. But anyway, out of focus frame limit, I have at 240. And then obviously gameplay frame rate, I have at 240 as well, because I would like to get the best possible performance out of my computer. For the NVIDIA highlights, I have that disabled. The NVIDIA Reflex low latency, this is for all you controller users. Basically, this goes ahead and makes it so that way your controller is slightly more responsive. I'm using the enabled plus boost. Additionally, the GPU clock frequencies are kept high in CPU bound cases. This can reduce latency, but will increase GPU power draw. So basically, it just lowers the latency on your system overall. Mostly, you'll notice with controllers, pretty much all controllers players play on enabled plus boost. I just do it because I don't see why not. Do I notice that much of a difference? No. I do have my controller overclocked, and what that means is I'm not actually overclocking the controller, but rather I'm overclocking the port on the PC, which my controller is connected. I do play wired into a USB port onto my PC with my Scuff Impact. As you guys can see here, it's wired in. I'll leave a link in the description down to the video that I use to overclock my controller, or overclock my PC port, if you will. It's just the USB port that gets overclocked. It does not damage the controller. From my knowledge, it's literally just the port on your computer. It just takes your controller from around 5 millisecond delay down to around 1 millisecond worth of delay. But anyway, I will link that down below. Nameless made a fantastic tutorial. Took me all of about 5 minutes to do. Did I notice a huge difference? Not really, but it's one of those things. If you're already playing on PC, you might as well just take the free upgrade or, you know, the lower latency. Anyway, getting back into my graphics settings here. I'm getting landed on, actually. Somebody's landing out here to kill me, I think. All right, we're going to kill him, and then we're going to get back to the settings. Lord knows how my accuracy is going to be. Oh, yeah, it's looking rough. Oh, yeah, it's looking a little rough. And I'm not leaning forward. Gaming posture, huge. Arguably the most important thing. I'm sitting straight up and down. It's not good for you. You want to be lean forward. Boom. Bent in half, elbows on the knees. Bada bing, bada boom. Alpha gaming posture. Anyway, getting into this. Back to the graphics. Display gamma, I have it on 2.2. If you guys have it on 2.2 sRGB, that is for monitors. As you guys can see in there, most people that are watching this, if you're playing on PC, you're going to be playing on a monitor. Go ahead and have the 2.2 sRGB enabled. The stream quality I have on low. I cannot change this while you are in game. You have to wait till you're out of game. But I have streaming quality on low. Texture resolution on high. Texture filter anisotropic, whatever. It's like little details. It's just the textures. I have those on normal. Particle quality I have on high. Bro, what is going on? Oh, wow. Look at the CPU and GPU and frames. And all right. Well, we had to back out of the game because my computer was going to crash. Sometimes it happens. It's something with the overclock and all this, that, and another. Not of the controller or the port, but with the actual GPU and CPU. Anyway, getting back into this, texture resolution I have on high. The texture filter, normal. Particle quality, high. Bullet impact and sprays, I have that enabled. This is one setting that I think a lot of people, you know, turn off because they think it's going to improve their frame rate. And while it does, this information is actually kind of important, especially when you're playing inside a Warzone. Being able to see where bullets are hitting and being able to see if, you know, a shot hit the wall, you can kind of figure out what direction it came from. I know that sounds a little crazy, but when you start playing at a higher level and start looking for different things to give you an edge inside of the game, bullet impact and sprays, this is definitely something that you're going to want to have on. The tessellation, I have it on near. On-demand texture streaming is disabled, which means those are just useless. Shadow map resolution, I have it on normal. Caching of the sun shadows and the spot shadows, I have disabled. Particle lighting, I have on low. Ray tracing off. If you guys have DirectX ray tracing on, turn it off and you're going to get like double the amount of frames. It's kind of insane how many more frames that you guys actually get when you turn that off. The ambient occlusion, I have that disabled. And then the SSR, I have that on high. For post-processing, I do not use the DLSS. I know a lot of people are saying that I should, and I could get more frames, this, that, and another. Honestly, I've tried it many a times, and it just does not. My game just looks worse. I don't know what it is. I do get more frames, but I am perfectly fine getting around 120 plus frames. That's really all I need. After that, I honestly don't notice a difference. So I personally do not play with the DLSS on, but if you guys have, you know, a less beefy PC, go ahead, play around with these settings. See if you can get some more frames using that. The anti-aliasing, I have that on the Filmic SMAA T2X, which is basically the highest version of that. Depth of field, you want that disabled, obviously, because you don't want anything to be blurred. World motion blur disabled, weapon motion blur disabled, film grain on 0, dynamic resolution disabled, and dynamic resolution frame rate does not matter because the dynamic resolution is disabled. Anyway, though, guys, that is going to be my graphics settings for Warzone. I hope that the filters helped you guys out. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you guys did, don't forget to drop a like on it. I'd very much appreciate that. I'm going to be coming out with a jump spot video tomorrow. So make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications turned on. I'm going to go ahead and be teaching you guys a ton of advanced movement mechanics and jump spots on the new Verdansk Season 3 map. So make sure you guys keep your eyes out for that. Anyway, though, guys, I appreciate y'all. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. I'm going to catch y'all later. Peace.